Mossflower lay deep in the grip of midwinter beneath a sky of leaden grey that showed tinges of scarlet and orange on the horizon. A cold mantle of snow draped the landscape, covering the flatlands to the west. Snow was everywhere, filling ditches, drifting high against hedgerows, making paths invisible, smoothing the contours of earth in its white embrace. The gaunt, leafless ceiling of Mossflower Wood was penetrated by constant snowfall, which carpeted the sprawling woodland floor, building canopies on evergreen shrubs and bushes. Winter had muted the earth. The muffled stillness was broken only by a traveller's pause. A sturdily built young mouse with quick, dark eyes was moving confidently across the snowbound country. Looking back, he could see his tracks disappearing northward into the distance. Further south, the flatlands rolled off endlessly, flanked to the west by the faint shape of distant hills, while to the east stood the long, ragged fringe marking the marches of Mossflower. His nose twitched at the elusive smell of burning wood and turf from some hearth fire. Cold wind soughed from the treetops, causing walls of snow to dance in icy spirals. The traveller gathered his ragged cloak tighter, adjusted an old rusting sword that was slung across his back, and trudged steadily forward away from the wilderness to where other creatures lived. It was a forbidding place made mean by poverty. Here and there he saw signs of habitation. The dwellings ravaged and demolished made pitiful shapes under snowdrifts. Rearing high against the forest, a curious building dominated the ruined settlement. A fortress, crumbling, dark and brooding, it was a symbol of fear to the woodland creatures of Mossflower. This was how Martin the warrior first came to Cotir, place of the wildcats. In a mean hovel on the south side of Cotir, the Stickle family crouched around a low turf fire. It gusted fitfully as the night winds pierced the slatted timbers where mud chinking had not been replaced. A timid scratch at the door caused them to jump nervously. Ben Stickle picked up a billet of firewood, motioning his wife Goody to keep their 4 little ones well back in the shadows. As the good wife Stickle covered her brood with coarse burlap blankets, Ben took a firmer grip on the wood and called out harshly in his gruffest voice, "Be off with you and leave us alone. There's not enough food in here to go round a decent hedgehog family. You've already taken half of all we have to swell the larders in Cotir." "Ben, 'tis I, Earthclaw. Open up, burr. 'Tis freezing out here." As Ben Stickle opened the door, a homely-faced mole trundled by him and hurried across to the fire, where he stood rubbing his digging claws together in front of the flames. The little ones peeped out from the blankets. Ben and Goody turned anxious faces towards their visitor. Earthclaw rubbed warmth into his cold nose as he talked in the curious rustic mole speech. "Vermin patrols be out, burr. Weasels and stoats and the like. They am a-looking for more victuals." Goody shook her head as she wiped her little one's snout on her apron. "I knew it. We should have run off and left this place like the others. Where in the name of Spike shall we find food to pay their tolls?" Ben Stickle threw down the piece of firewood despairingly. "Where can we run in midwinter with 4 little uns? They'd perish long afore spring." Earthclaw produced a narrow strip of silver birch bark and held a paw to his mouth, indicating silence. Scratched on the bark in charcoal was a single word: Corim. Beneath it was a simple picture map showing a route into Mossflower Woods far from Cotir. Ben studied the map, torn between the chance of escape and his family's predicament. The frustration was clear on his face. Bang, bang! "Open up in there! Come on, get this door open. This is an official Cotir patrol." Soldiers. Ben took one last hasty glance at the strip of bark and threw it on the fire. As Goody lifted the latch, the door was thrust forcefully inward. She was swept to one side as the soldiers packed into the room, out of the winter night chill. They pushed and shoved at each other roughly. A ferret named Blacktooth and a stoat called Splitnose seemed to be in charge of the patrol. Ben Stickle sighed with relief as they turned away from the burning strip of bark and stood with their backs to the fire. "Well now, Dozy Spikes, where were you hiding all the bread and cheese and October ale?" Ben could scarce keep the hatred from his voice as he answered the sneering Blacktooth. "It's many a long season since I tasted cheese or October ale. There's bread on the shelf, but only enough for my family."